UN court leans towards the Gazans. Trudeau is silent on the United Nations top court. But Canada pauses funding to the United Nations Relief Agency. This is the Great White North Report. I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love. So the UN top court says that Israel must take steps to prevent genocide in Gaza, ruling on temporary measures. They're not calling it a genocide, but it seems to suggest they're leaning towards that and that it could become a genocide. So the top court on Friday ordered Israel to take measures to prevent and punish direct incitement of genocide in its war in Gaza, although it stopped short of ordering a ceasefire in a case brought forth by South Africa, which is totally ridiculous. Israel has done more than enough to try and get people out of the way. The problem is, it's a very small area. Hamas is buried deep in the ground, and they use civilian homes as entry points to their tunnels. They hide weapons in mosques, in schools, in hospitals, anywhere. UN Relief Agency buildings also have Hamas infrastructure in it. So to get at Hamas, you have to destroy this infrastructure. Now, people are being told to leave their homes by Israel. They're telling them where they're going to be next. But Hamas is telling people to stay put. Who do you trust? Who do you believe? I believe the Israelis, but I would get the hell down to the border. I'd sit and wait by the gate if I was somebody in Gaza. The problem is, there's probably not a single family within the Gaza Strip that doesn't have a member serving in Hamas. So the State of Israel shall take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. A large majority of the 17-judge panel voted for urgent measures which covered most of what South Africa asked for, with the notable exception of halting military action in Gaza. Because then if you ask for a military halt, it sends a broad signal to other terrorist organizations that, hey, we can commit atrocities and scurry back to our holes and nothing's going to happen, as long as we're hiding within a civilian population. That's what it's going to send a clear message to. Hamas will win. They're trying to sway public opinion to get rid of Israel. Israel is doing the right thing by getting rid of Hamas, and unfortunately people are in the crosshairs. I don't know why they're not demanding that Egypt open up its gate and allowing the Gazans to go into Egypt temporarily, build shelters on their side in the Sinai, but don't let them any further. Israel could probably do the same thing too, but why should Israel do that? Why should they act in good faith with these people? Now, while this decision is legally binding, the court has no way to enforce it. Just like any decision with the UN. There's no way to enforce it without military intervention. Former Human Rights Watch executive Kenneth Roth said the court didn't have the capacity to make a ruling on a ceasefire because Hamas is a non-state actor. The court did urge Hamas to release the hostages. It still holds. I think, frankly, this is as far as the court can go, said Roth. So, the court urged Hamas to release hostages and wanted Israel to keep the body count down. Now, the health ministry in Gaza, again, this is Gaza, Hamas-run health ministry. They're going to inflate their numbers. They're probably adding any casualties from their militants in that figure. Have been killed in the territory since then. A tally that does not differentiate between civilians and Hamas fighters. Key word. Right there. Limited humanitarian aid has been allowed into Gaza for the last 100 days because it's got to go through so many checks. And then once it does get in, how much of it actually goes to the people? The ICJ did not totally throw out the case, though it did not deal with South Africa's main allegation on genocide, and it did not throw out the case like Israel requested. Palestinians appear to be a protected group under the Genocide Convention. That's the flaws in the law, and they ruled in favor of humanitarian international law. According to the Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki, okay? Like how South Africa, such a hypocrites. They're one of the worst when it comes to refugees in their own country. Now, Netanyahu said our war is against Hamas terrorists, not against Palestinian civilians. And he's doing his utmost to keep civilians out of harm's way, even as Hamas uses civilians as human shields. And it's true. What more do you want? So this ruling should never have come up this far, but what can you do? Hamas as a city is going to be destroyed. But again, if the people would tell the Israelis where the Hamas is hiding and how to get through, it would shorten the war. But again, when it comes to anything Israeli and the Palestinian question, there's a lot of too much attention. So Trudeau is silent with the Liberal caucus remaining split over the ICJ ruling on Israel-Hamas. Jughead of the NDP says that despite ICJ ruling, Canada must call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Yeah, right, buddy. And is Israel gonna abide by that? No, they don't care. But it'll be political pressure. And Singh is now siding with a terrorist organization because a ceasefire works in Hamas's favor. Jughead Singh is so out of his depth when it comes to international politics, but because a lot of people that vote for him are from that side, and he's trying to sway the Muslim vote, which has gone Liberal, but now will probably go NDP. Trudeau has yet to comment, but his caucus is split. Liberal MP Salma Zaid told reporters before Friday's caucus meeting that she was a bit disappointed they didn't ask for an immediate ceasefire. She is the Muslim, and will side with the Gazans every time. She seems to think that Israel has yet to make sure they follow what has been in regards to making sure that civilians are protected. Maybe she should go into and ask the Muslim Israeli Arab population how protected they are. Well, another Liberal MP, House Father, said that the ruling looked only at whether South Africa's claims could go forward. Did not take a position on whether or not Israel is committing genocide. His position was not. It's baseless and insulting, and I don't even think the case was helpful to bring. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly said Canada supports the ICJ's critical role in peaceful settlement of disputes, but our support does not mean we accept the premise on the case brought by South Africa. It is for the ICJ to make a final decision on the case, which is not done today, and will continue to follow the case. It means that Joly doesn't believe that there's genocide and doesn't think it's the right case to bring up, but she's sitting on the fence. But Jughead said Canada has a responsibility to protect innocent people. Yeah. This guy needs a lesson in world politics. He will be a disaster as a prime minister. And God forbid we ever elect an NDP prime minister. The National Council of Canadian Muslims said the ruling is an important first step, but still wants Canada to take actions towards a ceasefire. They are all going to vote against the Jewish people. They were disappointed the ICJ did not make an explicit provision or order for a ceasefire. That Israel must take all measures within its power to prevent genocidal acts in Gaza. Really, how many Gazans are sitting outside of Gaza at the south end like the Israelis told them to? Israel could go in easily and kill them all, but they won't. Why would they do that? There's no purpose. Their explicit war aims are against Hamas. If the civilians don't get the hell out of the way, move out of their homes, leave, go to the border area. But the problem is with terrorist organizations, they will hide within civilian populations. And South Africa should have kept its mouth shut. Like, come on. Condemned Hamas's brutal attack in Israel, but said there's no justification for the scale of Israel's response in Gaza. Yeah, right. Let's say if Angola had carried out such an attack on South Africa, would the South Africans sit idly by? No, they would have attacked too. Which brings us to the next thing. This really confuses things. Canada pauses funding the UN relief agency over workers' possible role in October 7th attack on Israel. So the US and Australia have also suspended funding of UNRWA in wake of announcement. UNRWA is the Palestinian Refugees Agency. It only deals with them, with the Arabs from the 1948 war and onward. The Arab refugees of this region are special. No other refugee has this status. And these refugees from 48 can pass it on to their kids and their grandkids and so on and so on. It's a never-ending cycle, and it breeds a lot of violence and hate. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It should have been closed years ago. There was a time where the Israelis tried to build houses and get the Arabs off the refugee camps and into their own homes. And what happened is UNRWA protested the removal of their refugees. And also the PLO also protested. That Israeli program stopped. UNRWA sees it as a money machine. The people who run it. It's so corrupt it ain't funny. A lot of money goes through UNRWA and a lot of it gets... And you can suck on that teat for a long time. Case in point, World War II. Millions of people became refugees throughout the course of the war. The last refugee camp closed in 1953. 8 years after the war had ended. This one, UNRWA, is still in existence 75 years later, since 1948. So it's going on its 76th year. I think it's time to abolish it, get rid of it. And it's time for the Arabs to stop being beggars and start working towards a better future for themselves instead of looking to looking at the poverty and hate that they faced for the last 76 years. It's the fault of the United Nations, UNRWA, and of the Muslim countries in the surrounding area. Israel does have some responsibility, but not that badly. The Jordanians could have easily have settled all those refugees in 1948 on the West Bank, because they controlled it in 1948. 650,000 Arabs could have been settled there. Many of them fled because of the massacre that never happened. But the Arab leaders promoted the myth, and it had devastating consequences. So it turned out that several employees were suspected of involvement in the October 7th attacks, and they had severe ties with those staff members. The Israeli authorities provided UNRWA with information. So what they do? Philip Lazzarini, the Commissioner General, decided to terminate their contracts of those people and launch an investigation in order to establish the truth without delay. UNRWA is so infiltrated by Hamas in the Gaza Strip, it ain't not funny. They control it. Hamas controls UNRWA. If not, then UNRWA would cease to be in Gaza. They would kick them out if they did not toe the line. UNRWA does not have a military wing and cannot defend itself. UNRWA hires teachers that promote violence and hate against Israel, per Hamas's instructions, and will do anything. Hamas has tunnel entrances within United Nations buildings. Many Gazans who collect free food and subsidies from UNRWA will lie about their dead relatives in order to keep collecting it. That's why you see bags of food being sold in marketplaces around the Arab countries. So Canada's Minister of International Development, Ahmad Hussein, said the federal government has put a pause on additional funding to UNRWA while the allegations are investigated. Canada is taking these reports extremely seriously and is engaging closely with UNRWA and other donors on this issue. So out of curiosity, I went back and looked. Canada has committed more money, up to $100 million over 4 years, to the United Nations agency responsible for the welfare of these Arab refugees. This is of June 27, 2023. That's just $3 million to UNRWA's emergency appeal for West Bank and Gaza to ensure humanitarian assistance for basic services. Shouldn't they have already done this stuff? Doesn't the Gaza Strip in permanent control of Hamas? Don't they run it? Should they not be doing something for their own people? To the rising needs and deteriorating conditions faced by the refugees in the West Bank, Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. Why have the Lebanese, Jordanian, and Syrian refugees already melted into the society that they're in? Why are they being treated differently? Jordanians don't want them. The Lebanese, it upsetted the fragile balance in Lebanon. And Syria's in a civil war. But even when they're in Syria, they're not considered Syrians. So Canada has committed $90 million to UNRWA from 2019 until now. Now we're adding 93, and I bet it's even more. The agency has a mandate for controversy over the years because of its alleged ties to terrorist groups, use of hateful teaching materials in UNRWA-run schools, and reports of corruption. Just what I said earlier. Prime Minister Harper, Canada's contribution to UNRWA dropped to $19 million by 2019, but only to the emergency appeal for food and jobs and nothing to the general fund over concerns about the agency's ties to Hamas. Harper was smart. Then we got an idiot in power. Israelis have found that Hamas, which Canada considers a terrorist group, was elected to run the UNRWA Workers Union and UNRWA Teachers Association. So they're embedded so badly. They control the workers and the teachers. Trudeau Liberals reinstated full funding to UNRWA in 2016. And they wanted Ottawa's expectations, reform initiatives, regular monitoring, reporting, compliance with Canadian anti-terrorism requirements, and other oversight measures. So refugees face higher rates of poverty, food insecurity, and unemployment. In Syria, for example, 91% of Palestinian refugees households live in absolute poverty. In Lebanon, more than 89%. Displaced from Syria in critical need. Well, boo-hoo-hoo. Let the Muslims worry about them. These people should have been settled on the lands they went to. They should have been integrated. But Trudeau is an idiot. And now he's finally pausing funding. Not cutting it off, pausing it. I would have cut it off completely. But anyway, that's my opinion. We should cut off funding to UNRWA and demand that it be disbanded completely. We should take a step and support Israel because Hamas, against its war with Hamas. We should not take in any more refugees. Why would we take in refugees that are very anti-Semitic? We have enough people in this country that are like that. And we should definitely watch and make sure Israel doesn't get out of line. But we should also work with Israel and other Middle East partners in figuring out what to do with the Gaza after it's done. Because there's no way Israel is going to want more. The next time rockets are fired, they'll go right back in. It's going to be a repeated thing. Israel has the right to defend itself. Had this happened to any other country, there would have been a war. But anyway, any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of Canada pausing the funding. And should Trudeau give his balls a tug and condemn Hamas and go with Israel? And should Jughead Singh keep his big mouth shut? Leave comments in the comment section. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home. I'm in love